The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. This is Sydney speaking, and today's webinar, if you notice, we've actually mentioned that we're working with SolidWorks and SolidCAM, and we'll be showing actually how to leverage the SolidWorks and SolidCAM together using that powerful combination that we have the two of them. Now, what exactly will I be doing during this webinar itself? Very simple. There are many times I've actually had customers call and also what's happened is that they're actually trying to figure out the right way of creating, for example, stock in different configurations, but they don't even know how to create that stock. Whether it be in the part mode or in the assembly mode. So what we decided to do is actually dedicate this webinar specifically to creating configurations from scratch, exactly from building the configuration itself, whether it be in the part mode or in the assembly, and to see exactly how we can maneuver around working together with this in SolidWorks and in SolidCAM. As usual, there'll always be time for questions at the end. If you do have a question, all you have to do is raise your hand. Well, not physically raise your hand, but just click on the raise hand button. And in the questions area, write down the question that you have. And when you finish writing down the question, don't forget to click on the send button. This way I'll be able to see the question and then answer them at the end of the webinar. Okay, so let's get started with the webinar itself. And what we see here on our screen right now is a simple part that has to be machined in multiple positions. As you can see, and in this particular case that I have over here, the part is pretty symmetric around going around the entire part. And you can see it has to be machined on this side as well as these sides over here. And we want to get this actually done. Now, besides this, I also have opened in another window. You can see here in SolidWorks Windows, I also have opened up my fixture that I'll be using on the 5-axis machine. So the stock that I'd like to create actually has to be according to the shape of my fixture over here for this dovetail over here so that the stock can fit in there properly. So just take another quick look at the fixture itself. I'll take some information that I need over here. For example, the distance between the smaller open area on top over there is 35 millimeters. It's a 60-degree angle on the dovetail itself, and the depth from here to the bottom is a total of 15 millimeters. That's information that I need for myself. And let me go back now to the original part that I started out with, the multi-axis part. And just for my own personal convenience, I'm going to do save as because I want to use this part again later. I'm going to do save as. I'm going to call it multi-axial 1, just for this purpose over here. Now, what I'm going to do right now is very simple. I'm going to, there we go, it's saved. Okay, I'm going to create a stock on the part itself, and later on I'm going to create it on the assembly mode itself. But I'm going to do those, however, create it in a configuration. And we'll see exactly how we work with the configurations later on. Okay, so to create a configuration in SolidWorks, very simply go to the SolidWorks tabs over here, and we have Configuration Manager. I will right-click on the very top multi-axial and axial 1 configuration, that line over here, the very top line, and we will choose the option of Add Configurations. Now it's going to ask for a name of the configurations. I'll give it a simple name. I'll call it stock. You can call it whatever you want. It doesn't really make a difference as long as it makes sense to you. And for me, calling it stock makes very much sense to me. Okay, now I'm going to create the stock itself. I just continue working on the part itself. Now, I particularly like to work from the center of the part. And you'll see why a little later on. So in this particular case, I have my planes over here. My main planes over here are actually going through the center of the part itself, so I can use that. If I had not wanted, if I didn't have a surface over here, I can easily create a surface by just clicking on top over here on the option in features of reference geometry, choosing a plane, then clicking on this surface, then clicking halfway through this line, the halfway point over there, and it'll automatically project that surface coincident to that point over there. And this way I'll have a new plane exactly in the middle of the part itself. And in this particular case, I don't need it because I already have one here. So I'm just going to go right click on this and delete what I've created there because I really don't need it. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to choose my particular plane that I want to work on. This plane over here. Let's just make it so it's actually facing me. I'll click it again, so this way it'll turn around, makes it a little easy for me to work, and I'll start my sketch. Now, my sketch that I'm going to create at this point, just going to be a simple box around the part itself. Sorry, let me redo that, undo. Again, create the box exactly the way I wanted it over here, and just give it some measurements. My top from the top of the part to over here, I'm going to have that at 2 millimeters. I'm going to start this edge to the edge of the sketch over there, also 2 millimeters. The same thing, this edge over here to this edge over there will also be 2 millimeters. And last but not least, the very bottom from here to here, that's going to be actually 20 millimeters. That's the excess material I'm going to need at the very bottom of the stock itself. As you can see, I've created my sketch exactly in the middle of the part over here. Now, when I go into my features, I'm going to use the option of extrude boss. Now, since I want to have this as two separate parts, not as one body, okay? So first thing I'm going to do is get rid of merge result. If I get rid of merge result, you'll see that later on, we will have this as two different bodies, one inside the other, but they're actually two separate parts. Okay, now the first direction I'm going to stretch it to, I'm not going to use the option of blind, but I'll use the option of offset from surface, and I'll click on this surface. Sorry, I said offset on surface. I'll click on this surface over there. There we go. Offset from surface. And reverse offset, I'm going to have that at 2 millimeters. Okay, reverse the offset, so it should go towards the outside. Now direction 2, I'll do the exact same thing. I'll use the option of offset from surface. Let's turn the part around a little. And I'll click on this surface over here. Again, I'll choose the option of reverse offset. Have that at 2 millimeters. And accept that. You'll note that we have now over here in our SolidWorks tree, we have two bodies. We have solid bodies. It says 2. Open that up. You see we have first body and our second body over here. Now, if I right click on my second body, we have the option of showing it as chain transparency, where we can actually see through the stock itself, making it easier to work with, because we also want to see the part as we're working with it later on. Okay, let me just continue now with the actual building of the stock. I'll choose this side over there, and what I'm going to do is put the actual dovetail at the very bottom. So we'll start a sketch, and I'm going to start a sketch with a center line actually going from the center over here, going all the way up to the top, and then choose a regular line, and I'll start from this edge of the stock over here, going to over here, giving the shape of my dovetail all the way to the bottom over here, to that corner, and back up to over there, closing it all off. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to capture this entire sketch, including the center line, and click on mirror entities up on top, so I have it on the other side as well. Now all I have to do is put in my measurements. So I'll put in between this point and this point a distance of 35 millimeters. I'm going to put an angle over here between here and here. Sorry, my mistake. Between here and there. I'll put an angle of 60 degrees, and I'll have this over here at 14 millimeters. As my depth in the fixture itself was 15 millimeters, this way I have a little bit of spare space here at the very bottom over there. Next thing I have to do is just cut through all. So I'll do extrude cut and choose through all and accept that. So if we take a look over here, we now have our stock. Now, if you remember, I made this as a configuration. So if I go to my configuration, you see we have our stock and we have our standard over here where we don't see the stock. It makes it easier to maneuver on later on as I'm working in the part itself. Okay, let me just save this. And now let's start working with SolidCAM itself. Okay, we'll go into SolidCAM. We'll start a new part over here, milling. We'll accept that. And now what I want to do is create my home position. I'm going to go to coordinate system, click on this surface over here, as shown over here, and I'm going to, I'll leave it the way it is. It's fine the way it is. I can flip it around once if I want. Doesn't really make a difference. Okay, and I'll accept that. And we'll click on OK. Now, as far as my stock goes, the stock, I want to have the stock exactly the way I built the stock. That's not a problem itself. Click on stock. Now, instead of define by box, I'll choose the option of 3D model. Now, since I created a configuration, when I bring a part that has a configuration on it into SolidCAM into the assembly mode, we have the configurations automatically brought in with it as well. So you can see instead of configuration standard, I'm going to use stock. And now click on the stock itself. That is my stock as shown over here. And of course my target, you can see, which is already pre-picked, is the actual part itself. And we're all set. And you'll note that in this particular case where I brought the part in with a configuration already, it has the standard and it has the stock here automatically. Now what I'd like to do, this was actually building the stock inside the part itself. Now what I'd like to do is I'd like to close this part but then redo it in SolidCAM and this time build the stock inside the assembly and then show you how in the assembly mode I create the configurations and how we use it as well. Okay, so we'll close the part. As you see, I still have my fixture open. I'm going to leave it open. It'll only help me out later on. And let me go back and reload my part. Now I'm reloading my original part, and as you see over here, this part has no configurations in it. Now I'm going to start working in SolidCAM. SolidCAM, new, milling, exactly the way I started before. I'll click on OK. Now since I'm working on this part, I want to have it on a multi-axis machine. So I'm using my Hermela machine, which is a 5-axis machine, which is no problem at all. Okay, now my coordinate system. I'm just going to click on this surface over here, and I'm going to just accept that just the way it is right now. Now this part, I do have to have multi-positions around the part itself. We'll create more home positions as we go along in the part itself, but let's leave it right now just with one home position. Now I also want you to note one more thing, and I'll mention this later on why I've done this. We have the tool Z level at 60. Okay, remember that. Why? You'll see shortly. Okay, I'll click on OK, and we're all set. Now in this particular case, I am not going to create my stock yet. I'm just going to accept it exactly the way it is. And now remember, we're working in SolidCAM, but we're also in SolidWorks in the assembly mode. Now what I'd like to do is build my stock as a separate part in the assembly. So what I'm going to do is go into assembly, and we're going to do use the option of insert component. But instead of inserting an existing component, we're going to create the stock. So what we're going to do is click on the arrow below the option of insert component, and we'll choose the option of new part, inserting a new part. Now when it asks me to insert a new part, it's going to ask me on where do I want to actually place the sketch. So let me just go into my tree over here. We have our design model over here, and I'm going to actually put it on that surface over there. That's where I want to actually, and that particular plane. That's where I want to create my sketch, and let's actually put it in that way that I can actually see exactly where I'm going to work. Now I'm going to do exactly what I did before, and I'm going to create my stock the exact same way, no difference, put in my measurements, but this time I'm actually building a separate part outside of the actual part itself within the assembly, but it's going to be associative to the part itself because I'm taking the measurements off of the part. Okay, I'm going to put in here 20 millimeters as far as the depth goes from this surface, from that edge to that edge over there. Exactly what I did before, 2 millimeters. This edge to this edge over here, also 2 millimeters. And before I continue on, let me just drag this up a little over here, and I'm also continue with the measurement now from this edge over here to this edge over here, also as 2 millimeters. And just like we did before, I'm going to now stretch out and create the actual feature itself by going into features and extrude the body itself. And instead of blind, I'm going to use, just like before, offset from surface. Click on the surface, reverse offset so it goes to the outside instead, and have that at 2 millimeters. Now over here, I don't have anything to worry about separate, do not merge part, because this is outside of the part itself. It's not part of the part. It's just associated to the part within the assembly. Directions 2, same thing, offset from surface, that surface over here, reverse offset, and give it a value of 2 millimeters. Okay, we'll accept that. We see the stock itself, but let me actually continue now with the dovetail. I'm just going to go to this surface over here. Okay, we'll continue our sketch. And just as I did before, I'm going to choose the center line first. Start from over here all the way up to that point over there. Then choose the option of creating a line and do exactly what I did last time also. But this time I'm creating, like I said, a completely new part. Go over here, up to that point over there, and now grab everything that I have over here, including the center line, and just click on Mirror Entities. Add my dimensions. This angle is 60 degrees. This distance is 14 millimeters, and the distance between here and here is a total of 35 millimeters. And just as before, we're going to use the feature of extrude cut through all, and we're all set. You can see the stock is now built. Okay, that's a new part. As you can see also in the tree, we have a new part over here. Now that I finished editing the part, you'll notice in the right hand corner of the window, we have the option of exiting the edit feature, the edit part mode. Okay, click on it, and we're back in the regular assembly mode. Now, you'll note that if I click on the actual part itself, the stock itself, if I actually click on it, we have this window that opens up together with it. And what I'd like to do is choose Change Transparency. By clicking on Change Transparency, we now see it transparent, and we can also see the part. Okay. Now, if I want, I can actually also go into my SolidWorks Assembly Manager. I can rename this if I want. I will. Right click, and we have the option of rename part, and I'll just call it stock. Okay, so I've created now a part called stock. So we have now this assembly that has a total of 2 parts in it, the design model and the stock itself. Okay, now what we'd like to do is bring the fixture in. So when I bring in the fixture, we'll go into Insert Component. Now remember, since I have my fixture still open, when I go into Insert Component, I'll see it available to me in the Open Documents area. So I don't have to go browse, I don't have to start browsing for it. I'll just click on it, bring it into my assembly. It doesn't make a difference where I put it, and I'll just leave it right over there. You notice now we have it. It's free to move around wherever I want to move it around to. And now I'm going to start mating it. Now, the reason why I'm going to mate it is very simple. I'm going to mate it as exact as I can, so that when I create my machine setup for my machine simulation, it'll be exactly where it should be, and my machine simulation will show the real true story, exactly what's going on. Okay, so I'm going to go mate, click on mate, and what I'm going to do in the mate itself, let's take this surface over here of the fixture together with this surface of the actual stock itself, as shown over here, and we'll make that together. Accept that. I'm going to take actually now this surface of the dovetail of the stock together with this surface of the fixture itself, mate that as well. Note it automatically jumps to coincident, and I'll accept that. So all I have to do right now is place this exactly where I want to place it. Now you'll note, if you remember correctly, when I created my stock, I created it on the exact center of the part itself. And I actually want to have this sit on the center of the part. This is the way I like working. So when I created my fixture, when I built this fixture, I built it with the surface in the middle as well. So if I go into my fixture over here, into the tree over here, you'll see that I have my surfaces over here, my planes over here. I'm going to use the right plane of this, as well as going into my stock over here and using the front of the stock itself. And you see it automatically also does coincident, which is exactly the way I want to have this sit on the machine itself as well. Okay, now I didn't talk about configurations yet. Let's actually now create a configuration. Okay, I'm going to do it the same way. Create my configuration the exact same way. Add configuration. I'm going to call this configuration stock and fixture. That's my configuration. Okay, that's all done now. Now, right now, if I have it in standard and in stock and configuration, they're both showing me the exact same thing because they're both based on the same thing right now. Now I have to actually go into my assembly tree and tell exactly where I want, how I want my configuration set up. Where do I want my configurations for the stock and the fixture? So let's actually manage that. Let's make this a little smaller over here so it's a lot easier to work with. And what I'm going to do is as follows. I'm going to click on the stock as shown over here and hold my control button on my keyboard and click on my small fixture. So I've chosen actually both of them. Right click, and we have the option over here called Configure Components. Now when I click on Configure Components, we have this table that opens up. And it shows me on the left-hand side my actual configurations, my standard and stock and fixtures. And on top, it shows me the stock as well as the small fixture. Now what I would like to do is that when it's in the standard mode, I want my stock to be suppressed. So I'll click on suppressed, and I want my small fixtures also to be suppressed. When I click on OK, we have our configuration set up. If I go into my configurations now and click on standard, double click on standard, sorry, you'll see that we have the part now without the fixtures itself. Let's just put it back exactly the way it was before, and let's work from this way. Now I can go back and create my stock. So again, we'll double click on stock. We'll go into define by, instead of box, we have 3D model, and you'll note that the configuration that's active right now is stock and fixture, because that's the way I brought it into this case. So I'm just going to click on the stock itself, and you can see we've chosen the stock as shown over here. We'll accept that. And now we actually want to do create our fixture as well as do our machine setup. Now, instead of going first and create the fixture and then doing machine setup, I'm going to go into operations and go directly to machine setup and actually create my fixture within machine setup, making it cutting out a step, making it a lot quicker. The way I do this is very simple. Where we have here right now, it says fixture, it says none, because there are no fixtures available yet. But if I open up this field and click on the arrow, I can actually create a fixture over here as well. And just click on the fixture. As you see, my fixture has been created. And now all we need to do over here is right click on the Z level, as shown over here, pick on Z, because the center exactly is the X and Y are in 0, but the Z at the bottom over there, and that value is put in there automatically as shown over there. Now we're ready to start working. Well, not really. One more thing we still do have to do, which I didn't do before, I'm going to do it now, is I need to create my other home positions. So I can always go back and create it, and you know what? I don't want to see my stock or fixture right now, so I'm just going to make it a lot easier for me to work just by going over here and clicking on standard. This is what makes it easier working with the configurations. Go back and forth easily instead of suppressing each time. Everything is set in here for me. Okay, let's go back to my coordinate system manager, and we have our first home position. I want to create another one to work, say, on this side over here. Okay, so I'll just do add, and I'm going to click on this surface over there, and I also will make sure that my Y is going towards the back of the part. This way it'll always be, the front will always be facing me when I'm machining the part, and it'll always be in that same direction. Okay, that's okay with me, exactly the way it is right now. So I'll accept that. Now I also want to create another one, so let's create another one. Let's actually go through all the motions of creating this, the actual, all the home positions. I got to flip that around Z, no problem. Flip around Z until I get my Y in the right direction. Continue. See the the part automatically flips around to the right position. Continue on down. Add another one, clicking on that surface over there. We'll again flip it around to make sure it's facing the right way. And I'd like to do one more, working on this surface over here. My Y is in the right direction, that's no problem. And all of those are set. So we have our 5 home positions. Now, in addition to what I've created over here, the 5 home positions over here, I'd actually like to create another one on this surface as well, because I actually want to take a fly cutter later on also as well when I do the face milling over here, also just to clear off this surface over here as well, making it a lot easier for me to work. So I'm just going to go add, and I'll add another one on this surface over there, just making sure my Y is in the right direction. And as you see, that's done over there as well. I'm going to do this for the other 3 areas. Just bear with me on this. click on that surface over there itself. Now the question is, do I really need all of these? We'll see that in a few moments. Okay, we'll continue on down, creating the home position as I said. Okay, we'll create 2 more, add another one. Now on this surface, remember it's flipping around every single time. I'm going to have my Y direction in the right direction. Okay, accept that. And one more on this surface over here. Again, flipping around, this time just once. And I can see my Y direction is in the proper area. So if we take a look at all our home positions that we have here, we have our very first one, second one, as it flips around the part itself, then this way, we have all our home positions exactly the way I want it. Okay. Now let's start working. Now, we'll start our first operation, and we'll use a simple face mill operation. So I'll go into 2.5D, face mill, and Mac 1, position 1, because that's what I want to work on. And if I go into creating my geometry, I'd like to create my geometry around the boundaries of the stock itself. Now, since the stock was created as a 3D model, if I go where we have the base geometry define, instead of clicking on define, I click on the arrow over here, we see both the stock and the target. I'm going to choose the stock. And note, when I choose the stock, since the stock was created in this configuration automatically comes up as well, and we can see the stock, the boundary around the actual stock itself. Now, I just want to note that the width of this is 104 millimeters. So when I go and choose my face mill for that, I'll take that into consideration as far as what kind of face mill I need. And I'm going to create a face mill that has a diameter of 125 millimeters, which is pretty standard, close to 5 inches if we're talking inches. And I'm going to have my arbor diameter. I'm going to have that at, say, 100. The same thing with my shoulder diameter. Okay, number of flutes, let's have that at 6. If I want, I can even add a holder to it, if I have a specific holder to it, so I can do that as well. Let me close this all up over here, and I actually did once create a holder for it. I'll choose that. Okay, you can see the actual tool itself over there. The levels. Now, the level, my upper level, is going to be on the top of the surface of this stock, and I can pick it directly over there. And my face depth is on the surface of the part itself. Working this way, I can actually pick through the part, through the stock itself, and it'll actually pick up that surface as shown over there. Now my step down is every 2 millimeters. If I go into my technology, first of all, I'd like to do this in 2 steps. I'd like to have my floor offset first go down to 0.2 millimeters and then do a finish. Besides that, I also want to work, instead of hatch, I like to work 1 pass across the top itself. Let's run our simulation, and you'll see that the tool will come down, as shown over there, across the part, once, twice, and we're all set with that. Now, since I want to do face mill operations on the other side as well, I'm just going to do save and copy. And this time I'm going to choose Mac 1 position 2 to work on this side. I'll create another geometry. Again, I'll use the option of stock, and that's fine for me. Now, my tool will be the exact same thing, no changes over there, just my upper level will be at the top of the stock itself, and my face depth will be up until that surface over there. Now, Everything stays the same in my technology, no changes. Now, since this part is symmetrical all around, instead of creating another operation with using a different Mac, what I'm going to do is very simple. I'm going to actually use a transform option called around fourth axis. I can do this directly inside the operation itself just by going to over here, transformation, and use the option of fourth axis. I will include my original operation as shown over here, turn it around 90 degrees. I wanted to have that done 3 times. Insert. So now you see we have the original plus 3 more times. Accept that. Let's click on OK and run my simulation. Now note the simulation itself. The simulation will go around the part. Let me just slow it down just a bit. And you'll note also this arc over here. Actually, let me start this again from the very beginning. You see it goes down once, goes up, goes down its second time. Now it goes up to a specific height. To what height does it go up? It goes to a height up, and it goes up to 60 millimeters over here, and then curves around. Remember in the beginning I had mentioned to you that when I created my home position, I had my Z level, tool to Z level set at 60. I pointed that out to you. That actually picks up the tool to a distance of 60 millimeters above the part itself before it actually does the rotation of the part. And that's why we get the arc exactly the way it does. It doesn't go all the way up to the top. I can set it at any height I want. That's the height I'd like to have it. Now let's run it to the very end, and you can see it works on all of those sides. Now, so what I've done here is I've created in one operation 4 face mill operations without having to use the different home positions that I created before. Now I want to do the same for these surfaces over here. So what I'm going to do is again do save and copy. Now this time when I'm doing save and copy, it already includes within it the transform as well. So all I'm going to do now is choose a different home position. Now if I'm not sure which home position I had to pick, I can go into over here where it says coordinate system. Click, say, I believe it's position 6, which is correct. Okay, if I take a side view, you can see that's exactly what I need over there. So position 6 is correct, and I'll accept that. Create my geometry. This time when I create my geometry, I want to use the option of faces. When I choose my face, I'm going to click on this surface over here. That's the face I want to have my boundary created around. Now, if I want to actually make this a little larger, no problem. I can always modify that, say by 10 millimeters, and it will go actually out by another 10 millimeters. Now, as far as my levels go, let's put this again in the side view, and we have our upper level as shown over here. Now, my upper level, look at the stock itself. The stock actually will be going up to here. Actually, it's not completely true because I've machined some of it down, but we know that this is a safe area to go down to. So I'm going to click on upper level and click directly on the stock itself over there. Face depth down to over there. Now if I know the value over here, I can put in a different value. I'll put in a value of 3 millimeters, but if I don't, I just leave it exactly the way it is. My technology, I'm just going to leave it exactly the way that is. Save and calculate and run my simulation. You'll note, I'll do this now in Solid Verify. You'll note that it'll again go around and it'll work exactly on those corners. And since it's already had the transform of the arc in it, it'll do the arc as it'll do, the round fourth axis. It will do those areas as well. Now, continuing on machining the part, no problem. Now, I want to work on these pockets, for example. Now, since I don't want to see the stock anymore, I can leave it exactly the way it is. So I'm going to just create another operation. I'll go into 2.5D. You know what? I'm going to do this in iMachining. iMachining to the iMachining. And since I didn't choose my machine before, I'm going to do that now. And I'm going to choose my material now as well. And start by creating my my geometry. Now I want to work in Mach 1 position 1. No problem at all. Create my geometry. I'll choose the option of curve propagation and just click on this edge over here, thereby taking all the edges in one shot. My tool will be a 10 millimeter end mill. I'll create a 10 millimeter end mill as shown over here, 10 millimeters. I'm going to use the cutting level of this. The cutting length is a total of 20 millimeters, and my number of flutes is 4 millimeters. I'll even add a holder to that as well. And in this particular case, the type of holder that I'm going to be using will be I'm going to use a shrink holder, which I have over here. That's all set. Let me go back and over here also let it outside the holder. I'll have it a total of 35 millimeters. They don't have to have it sticking out that long. And our levels. Our levels, again, my upper level is over here. And my pocket depth is up until that level over there. Okay, we're all set over there. My technology wizard, of course, we can set that to whatever level I feel is correct. And we'll just do save and calculate. Now, and as you can see, if I run my simulation, we have the toolpath exactly in the middle the way I want it. Now, since I want to do this in these pockets as well, I'm just going to do save and copy. Choose a different Mach 1 position 2. And in this particular case, I'll create another geometry again. This time, I'll choose my chain the exact same way this time, did last time, from this edge over there. Created the chain. By the way, I can choose my upper level over here as well, but let me do it inside the part. Just go into my levels over here. My upper level is this surface over there. My pocket depth is up until that surface over there. Everything else stayed the same. Now, since again, this is symmetric around the entire part and I have to do it there as well, I'm just going to go in over here and do again the option of transform around the 4th axis, include the original part, turn it around 90 degrees a total of 3 additional times, and we have a total of 4 times. Click on OK. Run my simulation after it calculates. I'll do that even in Solid Verify, and we can see that's actually doing the entire part. You know what? Let me actually stop this, and I'm going to do the simulation on the entire part, but this time using machine simulation. And as you see, when I do my machine simulation, you'll see that because I did my setup and I did my mating in the parts correctly, everything is sitting correctly on the machine itself. I can start my simulation, the face mill on each side, as shown over here, on those sides over there, the pockets being done by iMachining as shown over here, going around the entire part. Let's speed it up a little. As we'll do it again on those sides as well. And of course, I can continue machining on this entire part. But the idea behind this was to show you how to create the stock in configuration one way by doing it in the part itself before starting a SolidCAM project, and the second way of creating it in the assembly after you've created your SolidCAM project as well. Okay, I see I have some questions over here. I'm going to go over to the questions. Is it permissible to have a separate stock model in the CAM assembly that has its own configuration? For example, one configuration for the raw stock and another for the machined dovetail. Not a problem at all. Any kind of configuration that SolidWorks allows you to do in the assembly mode can be done here as well. Not a problem. As long as you set up your configurations correctly, you can do exactly what you want. Is it possible to set SolidCAM SolidWorks to not copy fixtures to CAM part folders and maintain links to the original fixture assembly? If I'm correct in what I remember correctly, I think that's what it does. Let me just see to make sure. It is possible. Let me just remember let me just reread the question again. Is it possible to set SolidCAM SolidWorks to not copy fixtures to CAM part folder? Okay, and maintain the links to the original fixture assembly. I don't think it actually does copy it. I think it does maintain the actual the actual link itself. But I'll make sure I'll get back to you on that separately. But I believe that's exactly what it does. The suppressing stock and fixture work with multiple setups. I'm not sure what you mean by multiple. Okay. You talking about as in more than one Mac position? You can write in if are you okay. I'm not sure exactly what you mean by multiple setups, but you know what? I will more than one machine setup. Okay, sure. Again, every single time you create a machine setup, it's a different project, if I remember correctly. Now, since it's a different project, it's a different assembly. You can do within each assembly, you can have your assembly set up exactly the way you want it. Okay. That's basically it for now. I'd like to thank, again, this webinar has been recorded and will be available on our website together with the parts that I've used over here as well. So together with the fixture, including the parts, not only just the part, just the fixture as well. So you can play around with it and follow along exactly to what I've said before. And thank you for joining the webinar, and see you in our next webinar. Take care, everyone.